7 spine-chilling yard sale horrors, items that should have remained cursed and hidden forever. The young family stepped through the freshly painted door of their new home in Maplewood, blissfully ignorant of the haunting shadows lurking beneath the golden facade of the suburb. Ava, a bright 10-year-old girl, bounced on her toes with excitement, her heart's racing and imagination alive at the thought of meeting her new neighbors. The front yard bloomed with vibrant flowers, and the sun-drenched lawns looked like something straight out of a postcard. Yet, the neighbors hid their chilling history behind friendly smiles, a truth about Maplewood they were yet to discover. The day of their yard sale approached with an electric air, buzzing with anticipation. Ava scrambled to help her parents, Mike and Sarah, sort through boxes filled with memories. This was their chance to fit in, to truly feel like a part of the Maplewood dream. "Let's make it a success," Sarah cheered. But the air felt thick with an unspoken tension. As the sun dipped low, casting eerie shadows, the once innocent yard sale morphed into something else. An unassuming woman, Mrs. Henderson, arrived in the dying light, her smile stretching a little too wide. "Oh, my dear, a treasure from the past," she said, handing Ava a tarnished mirror, flecked with age and secrets. "It just needs a little polish. Character." Delighted, Ava begged her parents, and after a subtle exchange of hesitant glances, they surrendered. Little did they know, this mirror would unleash horrors they couldn't fathom. That night, as darkness settled over Maplewood, an unsettling energy surrounded the family. Ava placed the mirror carefully in their cozy living room, the image of her face twisted in its warped glass. As the night unfolded, strange occurrences invaded their home. A whispering breeze slithered around them, cold fingers brushing their necks. Shadows danced outside their windows, darting just out of sight. Ava listened, heart racing, the laughter of neighborhood children thinning to tense giggles, their eyes darting toward her home. Days turned into nights, each moment tinged with terror. The mirror twisted light, reflecting glimpses of something behind her, flickers of movement she could never quite grasp. It gnawed at her mind, a knot of dread growing tighter. Her father became restless, suspicion brewing as their friendly neighbors morphed into aloof figures with hidden intentions. Where were the cookies, the cheerful greetings? A shadow hung over Maplewood, and Ava felt its weight pressed down hard on her family. And then came the storm. A furious cacophony of thunder shook the heavens, enveloping Maplewood in darkness. Candlelight flickered as heavy rain pounded against the windows. Each raindrop felt like an ominous knock, a reminder of things to come. Frantic rapping echoed through the house, seeming to meld with the whispers from the mirror. Her parents' faces reflected in hopeless agony, twisted into a silent scream. So much rage pulsated around her. It mirrored her fear. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Ava's confusion morphed into desperation. She had to confront Mrs. Henderson, that seemingly sweet neighbor with a tight grip on Maplewood's past. A web of secrets tangled around the community started to suffocate her. Recollections of families vanishing after touching the same tarnished mirror danced through her mind, taunting her. Trust oozed away, and betrayal smeared from the edges of her perception. Just as she prepared for a confrontation, the front door knocked again, splitting through the eerie silence. The mirror throbbed with a menacing glow, and the shadows outside murmured promises of darkness. Was she too late? Ava's heart raced as she took a tremulous step towards the door, realizing the truth lurking in the darkness may already be inside her home. What had she unwittingly awakened? The answer trembled on her lips just as the door creaked slowly open. As the door swung wide, the flickering light from the candles illuminated the tall silhouette standing at the threshold. It was Mrs. Henderson, her face a mask of joy that felt as hollow as the echo of her knock. "My dear," she crooned, her voice syrupy sweet, "I knew you'd be curious. The mirror, it's merely a reflection of what you allow yourself to see." Ava's breath hitched, a shiver down her spine. She sensed the oppressive weight of Mrs. Henderson's gaze, the kind that sliced through the darkness into the very core of her soul. "What do you mean?" Ava stammered, her mind racing with fear. "Well," Mrs. Henderson leaned closer, the dim light casting eerie shadows. "It shows what you desire, what you fear, and sometimes it shows what it can take." Panic ignited in Ava's chest. She shoved the door, but Mrs. Henderson's grip was like iron. "You can't hide from the truth, dear Ava. It's coming for you, whether you're ready or not." Before Ava could respond, the shadows behind Mrs. Henderson morphed, stretching and coiling as if they were alive, creeping closer. She could feel their cold breath sweep past her rain-soaked door. The storm outside wailed an unholy chorus, rattling the windows as if warning of the peril that lurked just beyond the threshold. "Help," Ava whispered, her voice faint. She looked over her shoulder. Her parents had gone silent, not a sound emanating from them, as if a malevolent force gripped them too. "Mom? Dad?" But Mrs. Henderson only grinned wider, exposing yellowed teeth that glinted like knives. Why call for help when you can embrace the shadows? The flicker of the candled flames revealed fissures in the air behind her. Horrific images bubbled to the surface within those cracks. Ava's heart thundered as she threw herself back. "Stay away from my family!" she shouted, shaking with dread. The mirror pulsed at her side, reflecting a chaotic swirl of colors, like the image of swirling dark water ready to drown. "Your parents can't help you now," Mrs. Henderson hissed, her voice dropping to a guttural whisper. "They're already part of what the mirror desires." Ava turned, her mind racing for options. She had to break this hold. Gripping the tarnished frame of the mirror, she struggled with its weight. The whispers dredged deep thoughts of her greatest fears. Would it mean losing her family forever? The thought paralyzed her. Just then, the room flickered and the shadows seeped around Mrs. Henderson, forming a fog that clawed at Ava's ankles. Desperation clawed at her heart. "No, you won't take them from me!" The words flew from her lips, propelled by the surge of raw determination. Time slowed as she let out a guttural screech, throwing the mirror to the ground. It shattered, glass pieces flying like 1,000 stars across the room. A scream erupted, one that belonged neither to her nor her parents. An angry swirl of darkness erupted, swirling chaotically, seeping out of the shards like angry smoke. Mrs. Henderson wailed, the sound haunting and terrible. "You stupid girl, you have no idea what you've done." Her figure melted into the vortex, consumed by the darkness. Ava felt her heart race faster. The shadows writhed, losing form, but searching relentlessly for a new vessel, someone to bear the pain of all who had encountered the mirror before. And then, everything went silent. The storm outside hushed. The almost suffocating pressure lifted for just a moment. Ava stood trembling, the broken shards glimmering like unearthly stars around her feet, holding her breath in the eerie silence. Her parents remained still, their faces shimmering in fear as the remnants of the mirror began to flicker around them, darkness swirling back into formed faces, one after the other. But one face rose from the glass, more distorted than the others, contorted with rage and pain that echoed through the silence. It seeped into the air, and Ava realized the battle was only just beginning. "Where will you find your refuge now?" the shadow snarled, reaching for her. With dread tightening her chest, she clutched her parents as the fog of whispers surged toward her once again. Would she have the courage to face this horror, or would Maplewood consume them all?
The answer loomed, a heartbeat away, waiting to engulf them in relentless shadows. What would Ava do next? The shattering silence was suddenly filled with whispers, a chaotic symphony of voices clawing at Ava's mind. Each word tugged at her memories, weaving together those fragments from long ago, dragging forth fears she thought were buried. Her heart pounded so hard in her chest she felt it might burst. "Get away from us! You're not real!" she cried, clutching her parents tighter as the shadow loomed closer, tendrils reaching out with an insatiable hunger. But the faces in the darkness twisted into grotesque smiles. "Not real?" it mimicked, the voice dripping with mockery. "You shattered the mirror. You invited us in." The grotesque figure seemed to grow larger, absorbing the surrounding shadows, forming a body from the nightmares of her childhood. Ava could barely breathe. The air thickened, pressing on her chest. How could she fight something that fed on her fears? The storm outside roared back to life, thunder rumbling like a heartbeat of an angry giant. The faces in the black mist flickered, their empty eyes locked onto Ava. "Join us, Ava. You longed for something greater. We can show you what it means to be truly free." "No, no!" She shook her head violently, trying to banish the insidious thoughts. Memories rushed back, moments of love, trust, and laughter shared within the walls of her home. They were worth fighting for, even if it meant facing this nightmarish entity. The whispers intensified, swirling around her like a cyclone of torment. They seeped into her ears, filling her mind with images of the life she wanted but could never have. "Think of the power," they hissed seductively. "You could be more than what you are." "Shut up! Get away!" Ava screamed, forcing her eyes shut, shutting out the darkness that threatened to drown her. In that moment of desperation, she remembered her grandmother's stories about light battling darkness, about courage shining brighter than fear. She released a breath she didn't know she was holding and gathered all her strength. "I won't let you take them! Light is stronger than shadows!" she shouted, forcing her eyes open and letting the light from the storm outside pierce through. The shadows recoiled, hissing like 1,000 snakes, their form flickering behind a shield of brilliant light that emanated from Ava's heart. "Light?" the shadow snarled, its voice splintering. "You think that can save you?" "Enough," Ava shouted. In that instant, she focused on the love she felt for her parents, on all the moments they shared. The feeling surged through her, a hot flame igniting her spirit. She thrust her hands outward, channeling the light into a blinding burst that shattered the dark veil before her. With a deafening roar, the shadows exploded outward, slamming against the walls, forcing the darkness to retreat. The space around her crackled with energy. It felt electric, alive. But the reprieve was short-lived. The swirling brilliance brought back the memories she fought to fend off. The day the mirror had come into their lives, her father's desperate expression, the promises that had never been fulfilled. Just let them go, she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. But darkness was relentless. With a guttural growl, it shrieked back, "They're ours now, Ava. Their fears fuel our power." That's when she saw it. The center of the room was being pulled into a swirling vortex, drawing her parents closer. Their eyes widened, terror overtaking their faces as they were almost consumed by the maw of shadow. "Mom! Dad!" Ava lunged forward, heart racing as she reached desperately for them. But the shadows twisted, entwining around her parents, forming chains of despair that tightened with every movement they made. "Fight!" she ordered herself, her voice trembling but determined. The lingering light glimmered like a hope in the depth of despair. She felt it building within her, a force she hadn't known she possessed. As the whispers transformed into desperate cries, a chilling thought flashed in her mind. What if fighting back meant sacrificing everything? The weight of that choice crashed into her, threatening to drown her newfound resolve. "Now, Ava," the dark figure hissed in a final plea. "Surrender, and I will make you what your heart desires." Could she trust the darkness? Or was this the moment she'd finally take a stand? Gripping her parents' hands, she made a choice that would seal their fates. But what if they deserved the shadows after all? The ground beneath her trembled, opening a path straight into the heart of the storm that raged outside. The choice loomed before her like the storm. Would they walk into the light together, or would the darkness claim them all? Ava's heart thundered louder than the roaring storm as she gripped her parents' hands tighter. They were right on the edge of the vortex, the swirling shadows hungry for their warmth. The storm outside poured rain like tears, a sorrowful symphony to their plight. There was a palpable desperation in the air, thick and suffocating. "Hold on!" she screamed, fighting against the pull threatening to swallow them whole. The shadows hissed, a million voices twisting her resolve. "You're too weak to save them." But the light still flickered inside her, a stubborn candle flame against the dark. "I won't give up." She felt a surge of energy, a rush of bravery coursing through her veins. Sweat dripped down her brow as she steeled her mind. She could feel them slipping away, the weight of impending loss pushing down on her. "Why do you resist, Ava?" the dark figure hissed, its voice curling around her like smoke. "You can possess all that you desire, if only you accept the darkness." Images flared before her eyes, childhood dreams twisted into nightmares. The laughter that used to fill her house, now eerily absent, replaced by echoes of torment.
"You think I want this?" she shouted back, her voice breaking. "You think power means anything without love?" The darkness recoiled, shrinking slightly, snarling at her defiance. "Love? Love is weakness. It only brings pain." Ava felt her parents' fear tugging at her heart. Their wide eyes pleaded for her to fight, and in their gazes she found her strength again. The chains binding them pulsed with suffocating energy, and Ava envisioned the light growing within them. She'd learned from her grandmother that love could sparkle fiercely, even in the darkest places. She closed her eyes and pictured the home they once shared, the warmth of family dinners, the safety of shared laughter. She opened her heart to that love and let it flow through her, each memory igniting her spirit, expanding the warmth within her chest into a brilliant inferno. "Stay close," she yelled, feeling the brightness coalesce around her. "Together we can break free." With fierce determination, she thrust her hands forward again, pouring every ounce of love and light she had into a blinding beam, aiming it straight at the heart of the swirling dark. Thunder clapped, shaking the very ground as the light surged forth, colliding with the shadows. There was an ear-splitting shriek. The shadows began to unravel, recoiling frantically as the light consumed them. But it wasn't over. Ava stepped forward, her parents held fast in her grip. She could see their eyes widen in astonishment, fear still holding them captive to the darkness. "Fight, Mom! Dad! Don't let it take you!" she cried, desperately willing them to resist the pull of despair. Their fear began to fracture, their tears mingling with the storm, shifting from resignation to hope. Ava felt their hands squeeze hers, a flicker of shared strength igniting the air around them. The shadows hissed louder, swirling into a tempest of shattering voices. "Foolish girl," the dark figure howled. "You cannot win against what is eternal." But Ava focused, drawing all the love she had for her parents into the light. The storm outside seemed to fade, swallowed by the battle raging between their combined lights and the encroaching darkness. A tremendous blast rocked the chamber. The air crackled with energy, but the shadows wouldn't relent. Panic spread through her mind like wildfire. What if we can't break free? In that tense moment, she felt the world tremble around them. The very fabric of reality seemed to rip at the seams, the shadows screaming as they clawed at the light. Just as she feared they would succumb, her parents' eyes locked onto hers, filled with fierce determination. "Yes, together!" her father shouted, his voice breaking through the chaos. "We are stronger than this." She unleashed the light as they shouted in unison. Within that celestial flare, she glimpsed a fleeting shape, a malformed visage born of whispered nightmares, cloaked in darkness and denied. The room shook violently, shadows shrieking, clawing at their hold. Could they truly overcome the entity that thrived on their despair? Or would the vortex consume everything they held dear? As the light erupted, casting shadows into the corners of fear, Ava's breath hitched. The clash between love and darkness had reached a fever pitch, and she wondered what would be left standing when the dust finally settled. The light exploded, engulfing the chamber in a tempest of brilliance that momentarily drowned out the shadows. Ava felt a surge of power flow through her, as if the very essence of love and hope coursed like electricity. Her parents stood resolute at her sides, their hands gripping hers with fierce unity. But the darkness roared back with a vengeance. The shadows twisted, morphing into grotesque forms that danced around them like living nightmares, their whispered taunts echoing in Ava's ears. "You are fooling yourselves. You cannot escape your fate." Ava squeezed her parents' hands tighter. "We won't let it take us." She could feel their determination solidifying like steel around their hearts. But deep down, unease curled in her gut. The shadows were relentless, closing in, and for every step they took toward the light, the darkness countered, clawing to reclaim the lost ground. The dark entity, now more defined, surged forward, a monstrous figure made of all her fears, an amalgamation of anguish and sorrow. "You think you are stronger? You think you can defy me? Your love is but a fleeting moment, while I am eternal." Its voice slithered through the air like a chilling mist. Ava's breath quickened. She could see fragments of her life within the creature's eyes, her childhood memories twisting into horrifying scenes that played out like a warped home movie. It showed her the faces of friends she'd lost, moments of betrayal, every ounce of pain she had ever endured. "No, that's not who I am," she cried out defiantly. "I won't let you rewrite my story." With a roar that drowned out the storm, she pushed every memory of joy into her light, focusing on the laughter around the dinner table, their yearly trips to the beach, the times they'd huddled together during thunderstorms.
She envisioned those moments, weaving them into a radiant shield that shone brighter than any fear. "Feel our strength," Ava cried, eyes blazing as she thrust her hands forward. The beam shot out, piercing through the dark veil, illuminating the chamber with a pure white light that temporarily blinded the shadowy figure. The shriek that followed was agonizing. The shadows writhed and thrashed, yet the darkness fought back, launching tendrils of despair toward her family. Ava felt her parents begin to falter, panic creeping into their eyes. The shadows represented everything they feared: loss, abandonment, and their own powerlessness. "Mom, Dad, don't give in. Remember the strength we have. Remember." In that moment, as she flung her voice into the chaos, Ava felt it. An invisible thread forged between them, an unbreakable bond of trust and defiance. Her parents' fear melted into determination, and they each shouted their own declaration of love. But the darkness grew angrier, hurling itself toward them with one final attempt to break their resolve. Ava stumbled back, feeling the bitter cold wash over her, an overwhelming wave of despair threatening to drag her into the abyss. "No, I won't let you take us." Just as her world spun into chaos, she saw it. The swirling energy around them, the fight between light and dark seemed to resonate. They were caught in a storm, a rift opening wide between two realities. But what happened next threw her heart into a freefall. A fissure split the space behind their parents, light and shadow pulsating in a frantic race, vying for dominance. An echo of laughter rang out from the shadows, a familiar voice that sent icy tendrils creeping up her spine. "Join us, Ava." Her breath hitched as she turned, stumbling back, eyes widening in horror. From the shadows emerged a faint silhouette, a figure she hadn't seen in years, the one person she thought she'd never encounter in this nightmarish reality. Could her past return to taunt her even now? As panic surged through her veins, Ava understood. This entity fed on fear and regret. She could either succumb to its darkness or stand strong against the pull of despair. But could they truly withstand this new threat? And what would the shadows conjure next to defeat them? The darkness closed in again. A whisper stole her breath away, an invitation wrapped in promise. You can find solace in us, Ava, just beyond the light. What would she choose? Ava's heart pounded in her chest like a drumbeat announcing doom. The figure looming from the shadows was ethereal, almost unearthly, and yet unmistakably familiar. It was her brother, Aaron, who had vanished years ago. His presence felt like an electric charge, a jolt of painful nostalgia that threatened to fracture her resolve. She had spent countless sleepless nights searching for answers, blaming herself for what had happened. "Ava," he breathed, his voice a soft lure, wrapping around her like a fog. "You don't need to fight. Come with me. We can finally be free of this torment." The temptation strummed at her soul, easing the burden of pain she had long carried. Ava's hands trembled, hesitant to relinquish the bright, fierce light she had conjured. Long ago, she had been told that hope was a flame that could never extinguish, yet now it flickered dangerously low. "No!" she shouted, desperation flooding her voice. "You're not real. This is just a part of their game." The shadows tightened around them, their snickering growing louder as they reveled in her doubt. Aaron's smile wavered, the familiar twinkle in his eyes dimming to a hollow echo. What if I am? What if I'm the only escape from this nightmare? Ava felt her parents drawing closer to her, their faces mirroring her fear and disbelief. They couldn't lose hope now. They had to hold on. "Mom,
Dad, help me! With every ounce of strength, she focused again on the memories of joy. The warmth of laughter at family gatherings, her brother's playful teasing, the way he used to pick her up and spin her around until she was dizzy with delight. But as quickly as these images came to her, they were overshadowed by the shadows who taunted her with every lost moment. The darkness lunged forward, its jagged edges scraping against her vision. You see, without him, you are nothing. Those memories are lies, it hissed, venom lacing its words. Ava felt the edges of her light flicker. The memories were slipping away as shadows coalesced, threatening to snuff out her final chance at escape. "Remember your love," her dad shouted, his face etched with determination despite the terror swirling around them. Just then, Aaron's form shifted, cracking like glass before her. His smile twisted into something monstrous, a mockery of all she cherished. "Join me, and you'll never have to remember pain again." "No!" Ava screamed again, feeling her heart beat wild in her chest. The ground quaked beneath them, shadows swirling like a storm, ready to pull them apart. In that moment, she knew she had to confront it, to shred the fabric of the shadows that held her captive. "Enough!" she roared, tightening her grasp on her parents' hands. In unison, they channeled their shared love, every pure memory igniting into bright flames of light. "You don't own us," Ava declared, pushing deeper, brighter. The shadows shrieked, recoiling from the radiant onslaught. Yet Ava's breath caught when she saw Aaron's visage blurred, shifting back and forth. The dark entity behind him cackled. "You think this light can save you? Watch me!" she cried, summoning the strength to push through. The energy crackled, and with every ounce of hope they unleashed, the shadows began to fragment, splintering into millions of tiny flecks. But just as victory seemed within reach, a guttural roar broke through the chaos, an unseen terror that rattled even the foundation of their bond. Ava's heart dropped. From the depths of the shadows, something ancient and monstrous stirred, rising faster than she could react. The darkness loomed larger, a mass of swirling despair, reaching for them with jagged claws, whispering echoes of fate long sealed. "Choice is an illusion, Ava. You belong to us." In that moment, splintered realities began to bleed together. The warmth of her family and the cold grip of shadows intertwining into a deadly dance. Ava's world shuddered, dizzying her senses and wrapping her in uncertainty. But behind the chaos, she felt her own resolve. She was not merely Juan's sister. She was a beacon against the darkness. How much longer could they hold on? Would the darkness consume them, or would she find the strength to fight once and for all? As the ominous shadows lunged, Ava's mind surged with one desperate thought. If they truly lost this fight, what would it mean for everyone they loved? The shadows closed in, and Ava trembled, realizing the truth. This was only the beginning. Ava felt the world tilt around her, the ground trembling beneath her feet as the shadows writhed and twisted, hungry to devour her light. It was a cacophony of dread, a symphony that rattled her bones and gripped her soul. The monstrous form loomed closer, an unrelenting harbinger of despair that whispered her darkest fears into her ears. "Join us, Ava," it hissed, a taunting echo that reverberated through the chaos. "Let go and find peace." Peace. The word felt dangerous, insidious. It dawned on her, stark and monstrous, the price of that peace might be everything she loved. A pang of desperation welled in her chest. If she faltered now, what would they suffer? "No!" she screamed, a primal sound ripping from her throat. "I won't lose anyone else."
With her family's hands clasped around hers, she dug deep into the well of memories that sustained them. The scene shifted as the laughter of her childhood filled the air. Images surged forth, family hiking trips, the warmth of summer days spent splashing in the pool, evenings gathered around the TV, their favorite show bringing forth waves of laughter and togetherness. The shadows shrieked, recoiling at the brightness, yet still they slammed together like a boiling sea, masses of darkness advancing relentlessly. The whispers grew more frenzied, drowning out her light. "You'll never prevail. They don't belong to you." "We'll see about that," Ava shot back, her heart pounding fast, fueled by anger and fear. "They're mine. They belong in my heart forever." As if in response to her ferocity, the shadows twisted violently, their forms shifting into grotesque shapes, faces of the lost, of those she had grieved. It was as if her nightmares had come to life, eyes wide with torment. Memories had become a weapon against her, a mockery of her love. Suddenly, a booming voice echoed from the abyss. "You are naive, child. This world isn't built on love. It is founded on regret and loss. You will succumb." The shadows surged, engulfing her parents, tugging them from her grasp. "Mom! Dad!" Her voice teetered on desperation, pure, jagged fear. "No, Ava!" her mother cried out, her voice strained as though coming from underwater. "Don't let them take us!" The air grew thick and oppressive, like a fog that wrapped around her throat. Ava felt her heart teetering on the brink, ready to plunge into complete despair. She clenched her jaw, every second of their presence igniting a fierce rebellion within her. She had burned for too long, incalculable nights spent dreaming of their return. "Love is stronger than fear," Ava shouted, determination coursing through her veins like fire.
The flame within her flared brightly, channeling her pain and infusing it with the fierce light of everything she held dear. With a cry that resonated from her very core, she unleashed it at the encroaching shadows. The searing radiance cut through the darkness, and the void recoiled. In that moment, as luminous energy erupted from within, the shadows shrieked, an unholy sound that shattered the air, a cacophony of twisted rage. The ground beneath them fissured, warping and rupturing like a fault line, splitting the reality around them. But something was wrong. The void twisted, contorting to take shape, morphing into something more than mere blackness. From its depths, figures began to emerge, grotesque and familiar. Each shadowy face was adorned with despair that spoke of long-buried secrets, of regrets that seeped through cracks in their own souls. They flailed, reaching for her, trapped in a tainted reality. Ava's pulse quickened. "What are you?" "We are the echoes of your past," they moaned. "We are the gatekeepers of your fate. You have awakened us." A chill coursed through Ava's spine. They were echoes of her choices, her mistakes, souls once lost to time, and now they were here. As the shadows reached for her like 100,000 outstretched arms, desperation clawed at her mind. What would they reveal? What horrors were they hiding? Fighting every instinct to run, she stood firm, grounding herself. "I won't let you take me," she declared, heart racing. "What must I face to keep my family safe? Show me." The void roared with laughter, its sound melding into the swirling shadows. "Do you have the courage, Ava, to face the terror of your own darkness?" The air crackled with tension, and just like that, the shadowed figures merged, forming a single grotesque silhouette, a reflection of all she feared. In that instant, she knew she was on the edge of a precipice. What awaited her beyond the veil of her fears? Would she conquer the darkness inside, or would it consume her completely? The shadow shrieked, claws ready to latch on. Your truth lies in the darkness, they wailed. Ava braced herself. This was where the real fight began. Ava felt the darkness pulsate, alive and hungry. The grotesque figure loomed in front of her, its head twisting to catch the fading reflections of her past. Faces whispered her name, voices layered like a haunting echo, clawing at the edges of her sanity. Ava, you have so much to atone for. Each syllable dripped with venom. She understood instinctively that it thrived on her guilt, her regrets. But she couldn't let them feed it. "I'm not afraid of you," she shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. A flash of light erupted within her, a desperate surge against the consuming darkness. She focused on her hope, her love for her family, whether in their laughter or shared joy. Yet the shadows only laughed harder, dissolving her light. "Love won't save you, child," they screeched. "It weakens you. Let us show you the truth." In an instant, the cacophony quieted, thickened with icy dread. The shadows twisted and writhed, restructuring into distorted versions of loved ones, friends, family, all seemingly trapped in the web of despair that swaddled Ava in its suffocating grip. "Look," a shadowy version of her brother called, its voice a painful mockery. "You were never there when I needed you." Ava recoiled, each word like a punch to her gut. "That's not true." "It is," another figure insisted, pulling closer. "You backed away. You chose to forget me." "No, Her heart raced as memories flooded back, the fading laughter, the moments when she shut out the chaos of her life. Was that the truth? Did she abandon them when they needed her the most? The grotesque forms drew closer, weaving their way around her, echoing her guilt until it felt too big for her to bear. "You'll never break free. You belong with us." "No!" Ava screamed, shaking her head furiously. "I won't listen to your lies." She took a step forward, instinctively raising her hands, struggling to summon the light within. But it flickered weakly, feigning strength against an encroaching tide of darkness. "See? Even your courage is feeble," they chortled. Shadows crept onto her shoulders, rushing into her mind, amplifying her doubts. "Embrace us. Embrace the failure." The crushing weight of grief hung between them. Memories of every time she felt she could have done better, every time she dismissed her loved ones, flooded her senses. How could she fight against herself? But deep down, a sliver of determination ignited. "I might have lost my way, but I will find them. I will find my light." The shadows hesitated. For the first time, the grip on her loosened, and the cacophony of despair quieted, replaced by a whisper of her own heartbeat. She focused on something stronger. If they were the echoes of her past, maybe she could use that to her advantage. "Let me remember," she shouted, pouring her willpower into the declaration. "Let me unlock the truth of my past, not out of fear, but out of love." In that moment, the shadows recoiled, twisting violently, as if caught in an earthquake of emotion. They shrieked, battling against her newfound light. Ava pushed harder, summoning every ounce of love she could for her family, for herself. As she stood firm, a blinding light erupted from her core, pushing the shadows back. For a heartbeat, she felt their walls collapsing, their fury giving way. But then, something shifted in the air, deepening the shadows' despair. "You think this is the end, Ava? You're wrong. A darker truth awaits, one that will shatter you." She felt the tremor at her feet. The reality around her began to twist even more, a churning storm of anxiety ripping through her focus. Somewhere in the distance, something dark and insidious was drawing near.
What horrifying truth loomed on the horizon? Would it destroy everything she held dear, or bind her to her past forever?
In that moment of uncertainty, the shadows surged once more, and the ground cracked open beneath her. Your real terror begins now. The fissure widened beneath Ava, gaping like a ravenous mouth eager to swallow her whole. She stumbled back, heart racing as the shadows writhed and danced around the edges of the abyss, beckoning her with twisted fingers. This rift pulsed with an energy she could feel deep in her bones, dark, old, and cruel. "Don't let them take you, Ava!" A voice screamed from somewhere distant, its origin lost in the chaos. What was it? A warning? A plea? The shadows only sighed, weaving their way into her consciousness. They whispered promises of knowledge and power, seductive tinges of truth that pulled at her core. Each word tentacled into her mind. "Let go, Ava. Accept the past. You cannot fight us." A shiver coursed through her, the air thickening with darkness. She needed to focus. "My past doesn't define me." The words felt like a lifeline, even as she uttered them against the cacophony ripping through her thoughts. "It's time to reclaim my life." A pulse of light sparked inside her again, flickering against the overwhelming shadows. But the darkness drew in closer, pressing against her chest, urging her to yield. She could feel the weight of lost time, regret draping over her shoulders like a heavy cloak, suffocating her spirit. "Remember the last time you failed?" the shadows taunted. They morphed, the figure of her brother splintering into several shapes, each echoing her spiraling guilt. "Do you think you can save anyone? You can't even save yourself." Ava ground her teeth, grasping for the threads of her will. She couldn't surrender. Not now. Not ever. With renewed ferocity, she focused on the love she still held tight. The memory of her mother's gentle smile, the warmth of her husband's embrace, the laughter of children chasing fireflies on a summer's night. "Those moments are worth fighting for!" she screamed. And with the roar of her voice, that flame of hope inside her flared brighter, piercing through the suffocating darkness. The shadows shrieked, their forms flickering like dying flames caught in the wind. A raw energy surged through her, flooding her veins with a sense of purpose as she pressed against the darkness. Would this light push through all the way? The tension mounted as she felt the shadows shudder, destabilizing, the malevolent energy beginning to lose its grip. But just when victory seemed tangible, a whisper slithered into her ear, familiar yet chilling. "You don't know the truth, Ava. You don't know why it's all happening." "Shut up!" she shouted, shaking her head violently in defiance. Yet doubt rooted deeply inside her, its tendrils curling around her heart. What truth? The darkness surged again, the rift roaring with a sinister wind. Waves of despair crashed against her resolve, and fragments of memories sliced through the chaos. Images of her brother's fall, the days spent ignoring the screams for help. Each one felt like a dagger. Had she really abandoned those closest to her? "Yes, you did!" the shadows howled in triumph, echoing her darkest fears. "You will pay the price." Ava staggered as the spell of despair yanked at her thoughts. She fought to reclaim her light, stretching her hands towards the churning void. "I refuse to drown in this darkness. I will face whatever you hide." With that declaration, a blinding light surged forth, pushing back the shadows, unfurling the truth of her past like a banner in the storm. She inhaled deeply, preparing herself for whatever came next. "Your reckoning is nigh, Ava. You'll discover the truth, perhaps too late." The shadows hissed, their laughter echoing as they scattered into the recesses of the chasm. The darkness began to swirl, revealing something amidst the chaotic frenzy. Flickers of color, a glimmer of a familiar face, almost lost in the deep. Ava squinted, her heart pounding. What horrifying truth awaited her in this nightmare? Would it be enough to break her spirit, or could it lead her to uncover the darkness that trailed behind her every step? The shadows coiled, preparing for the truth's unveiling. The ground beneath her shook, threatening to pull her in. Ava, you have so much left to lose. Ava steadied herself, staring into the darkness that had taken on a life of its own. The shadows twisted and coiled like a snake ready to strike. There was an unsettling beauty to their dance, a desperate allure that whispered of hidden truths. "What is it you want from me?" she shouted, her voice slicing through the oppressive noise. But the shadows had no answer. They simply shifted, swirling with a ferocious hunger, seeping deeper into her consciousness. She could almost imagine them drawing forth the pain she worked so hard to hide, the losses that clawed at her heart. "Your truth lies beyond this abyss," they hissed. In unison, "You've been running from it for too long. Face it, and you may yet prevail." The flicker of light at the center of the swirling shadows caught her attention. As it pulsed and flickered, she felt a pull, strong and magnetic. Hesitantly, she took a step forward, heart racing. What lay at the core of her past? What memories did she attempt to bury beneath layers of hope and denial? "Don't do it, Ava!" A voice rang out from the depths of her memory. The voice struck cold, her mother's. "You don't need to know. You'll only hurt yourself." "I have to," she cried, forcing herself to remain grounded. "If I want to save my family, I must know." As her thoughts sharpened, the light brightened, illuminating the grotesque forms surrounding her, showing their true nature, faded echoes of what once was. She could see family and friends, each marred by shadows, their faces twisted by fear and longing. "See? They will consume you," they echoed, their mournful tones making her heart ache. But Ava stood firm, recalling her family's laughter, the moments filled with love. It was hope that shielded her now. "I won't be afraid. I will forge ahead." With each beat of her heart, she stepped closer to the radiant glow, feeling the warmth wash over her. It shook off the chill of despair, reminding her of why she fought. With one final surge of resolve, she leaped into the light. The shadows slashed around her, but dimmed against the brilliance of her courage. Then she found herself standing before a vivid scene drawn from her deepest memories. It was a warm autumn day, leaves fluttering in the breeze, laughter filling the air. Her brother Aaron was there, young and carefree. He was whole, part of the comforting normalcy that she had lost. "No," a shadow cooed, morphing into a distorted version of him. "You know the truth, Ava. You ran away when I called for you. You left me behind." "No," she cried, shaking her head vigorously. "I didn't choose this. I was just a kid. I didn't know what to do." "Isn't that the coward's way out?" the distorted figure mocked, the echoes of the past, twisted and sharp, biting deep into her heart. "You abandoned me, abandoned us." Ava fell to her knees, battling the guilt that churned in her stomach. Memory sliced through her resolve. The screaming, the fear, all of it flashed before her eyes, blurring with the joy and laughter she desperately clung to. "But we can choose differently now," she shouted into the pulsating void, her voice echoing loud and defiant. "I've lost so much time, but I won't lose this moment." The shadows hissed and writhed, but she could feel their power waning. As she focused, the scenes shifted, revealing the time before everything shattered. A glimpse of simpler days when love defined their world. "Embrace the true light within, Ava," came her mother's voice, filling her mind with encouragement. "You can still change this." Kitchen scenes, summer barbecues, joyful Thanksgivings all flooded her senses, infusing her with renewed vigor. "I am not who I was," she yelled above the cacophony. "I will not hide anymore." Screams of rage erupted from the shadows. "You can't win against us. We are shadows of despair." "Not anymore." With each bold declaration, the light within her surged brighter, enveloping her completely. The shadows shrieked and twisted, their forms dissolving like smoke against a roaring fire. Ava felt the warmth stretch around her, embracing her. Her family's voices joined in, a chorus of love, faith, and hope. They wouldn't allow her to fail, not now. The bonds they shared were unbreakable. Darkness had no power over that kind of love. "I will free you from this darkness," she declared, channeling the force of every memory filled with joy and laughter, remembering every moment that mattered. The shadows shrank back, shivering and twisting as the light consumed them. Ava felt the warmth stretch around her, embracing her. Her family's voices joined in, a chorus of love, faith, and hope. They wouldn't allow her to fail, not now. The bonds they shared were unbreakable. Darkness had no power over that kind of love. "I will free you from this darkness," she declared, channeling the force of every memory filled with joy and laughter, remembering every moment that mattered. The shadows shrank back, shivering and twisting as the light consumed them. The flicker of hope would not be extinguished. "Let go," she commanded once more, and with a final push she felt her essence connect, intertwining freely with her family. The ones who never left, the ones who would never betray her heart. The last echoes faded away, and with one thunderous explosion, light consumed everything, filling every crevice, erasing the darkness entirely. In the aftermath, silence draped over the surroundings like the calm after a storm. Ava opened her eyes, blinking against the brightness, and gasped as she stood back in her home, the shadows finally lifted. "Did we?" she breathed, glancing around. Her parents stood beside her, alive, looking at her with wonder, concern melting into profound relief. "Ava, you did it!" her mother exclaimed, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I was so afraid," Ava whispered, letting the warmth of love encircle her. "But we're together again. That's all that matters." As they embraced, a sense of closure enveloped them, like a warm blanket on a cold winter night. Ava knew things wouldn't be the same, but those shadows no longer held a grip over her heart. They had faced their fears and emerged transformed. "We'll always fight for each other," Ava promised softly, squeezing their hands. There would always be darkness lurking in life, but as long as they drew strength from each other, their light would burn bright. Together, they stepped outside, the sun shining brightly through fresh clouds, illuminating Maplewood in a way they had never seen before. With warmth in her heart, Ava took a deep breath of the crisp, clean air, feeling peace settle around them. "This is our new beginning," she declared, ready to face whatever came next, knowing they would never be alone again. But just as the moment settled, she couldn't shake the feeling that shadows still lurked in the corners of their beautiful home. She looked over at her parents. "Just promise me one thing. We stay vigilant." And so, freed from the dark grip of despair, Ava breathed in deeply, the weight of fear now a distant whisper. If you love this story, you need to subscribe immediately. Don't miss the next thrilling chapter. Hit that bell so you get all the notifications. Smash that like button now to help us rise in the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. Let's hear what you think about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything, true fans.